All right, everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Next Gen Retics podcast. Excited to have everybody here. We've got some super experienced, breeders on, some newer breeders, some keepers. So I'm just super excited to get everybody's perspective. So why don't we start by just doing some intros? Everybody, I think at this point knows who Rodney and I are. So let's go Nathan, Eric, Dylan, and then Chris. Go ahead and plug your Instagram or your business name too.
All right. I'm Nathan Hess from Nathan Hess Retics. Have a website, nathanhessreticsandmore.com. And I primarily work with Aztecs currently.
Some Coyote Aztecs, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
currently.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, welcome, Nathan. Dylan,
Nope.
let's go to you.
Yeah, my name is Dylan. You can find my Instagram at Pacific_tropicals. I've been into reptiles since I was a little kid. I've been into the retics. I'm just coming up on a year in the retics now.
Rad, man, rad. Chris, let's go to you.
All right, I'm Chris Shar. I have Shar Serpents on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram as Shar92. I deal with Superdwarf and Dwarf locality retics. I also have the Halmaharas, and I do have some boa constrictors as well, along with a Nile monitor and a dwarf caiman.
Nice, nice. Well, awesome. That's great, guys. I'm really excited for this episode because I want to talk a little bit about go back and think about kind of your own personal story when it comes to getting into retics or super dwarfs and what kind of led you to getting involved in with these amazing animals, number one. But then number two, I want everybody to go around and talk about what was maybe that one retic you saw, if it was a, wild type, morph, whatever, that like really piqued your interest in terms of like visually speaking, that it just made things awesomer for you to jump in. So I'll start. So for me, I got into super dwarfs back in it was like 2018. I started kind of diving into Reach Out Reptiles content. And I've talked about this before, but it was really some of the Anery Tiger stuff that Garrett was doing back in the day that really just like I was just blown away by the contrast, and I didn't know that you could make snakes like that. So I decided not to buy an Anery Tiger myself. I decided to buy the ingredients to make one. So that's kind of where I'm at. But that was the one retic that kind of got me into super dwarfs. Rodney, how about you? What I know it's you know we go back to the dinosaur ages when you got into retics, but what was the snake that really piqued your interest and got you into retics?
Well, when I was a little kid, I had a bunch of snake books, and there was this one picture in this book that was just this giant retic, um, and that's actually what got me interested in retics when I was pretty little. But I'd go out. My first retic was actually a wild caught yellowhead that I got for like $100 at a show, and that's actually how I first got into it. I really liked the yellowheads, and then I got into the purples and the super dwarfs after that.
Awesome. Yeah, those
Yeah.
and you're trying to bring those back, the yellowhead stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm real close to proving it at least functions like a morph. It at
right.
least functions like a morph, so that'll if it hopefully this year I prove it out that it's basically a simple recessive.
That's awesome. Well, Nathan, I know you've got like the trophy collection. I feel like when it comes to just the animals that you bought, you just found the best looking stuff and you just bought it. And so, anyway, I'm excited to hear from you. Like, what really kind of piqued your interest and got you into retics? Like, what animal was it?
Yeah, when I was a kid too, it was the library books. Uh, I would read anything and everything regarding animals. And it was kind of like what Rodney said, flipping through the books, seeing the giant snakes, and that's what really piqued my interest. And then when I was younger, I had a purple tiger retic,
Hmm.
and then I also had a yellowhead. And then life happened, kids, married, so that kind of all went away. And then now we're in a really good spot. I'm currently building a custom home that is going to encompass all the snakes. It has a whole humidifier for the house. I mean, all these things. It's like built to accommodate the snakes. Um,
That's awesome.
and then I'm going to build all the custom enclosures. I'll take some with me, but then I'll be continuing to build bigger ones. Um, and yeah, I mean, whenever I started it, Aztecs were my favorite. And then when one came available, I purchased it right away. And but then I wanted to look at all the other, I don't know, maybe rare morphs, and then that's what I did. I just went around and collected whatever I liked, and that was the hardest to get. And I did have to like it too. There was a lot. Trust me, everyone wanted me to buy from them, and it's like that. If I didn't really truly like it, I didn't do it.
Right. I think that's a good for people that are looking to buy and get started. I think that's a really good philosophy to live by, where it's like if you don't truly love it, like don't just jump on it because everybody's talking about it or
Mm-hmm.
anything like
Yep.
that, right? It's like stick to your guns on that. So no,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Sounds like well, and I know for you too, you built out a lot of your enclosures. Are those bioactive? Are they naturalistic? What are those
They're
setups?
naturalistic.
Yeah,
Yeah, the thing that I think a lot of people don't get about them, uh, they are a pain in the ass to clean to get your snake
I know.
out.
Yeah,
It is like, it looks cool and it's neat seeing them. But man, you got a big log in there. You try to get the snake out, the whole thing's ruined, and you just give up. But yeah, I mean yeah, I don't have the full bio setup on there. I did initially had the live plants, and it was worthless.
it's tough.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So it's
Well,
all
that's
fake stuff
awesome.
in there.
That's awesome. Building a house for a snake house, essentially. So, good
Basically.
for you.
Yep. Yep.
Well, Eric, let's go to you. I know you have a ton of history as well. You're very, very seasoned, but what got you into retics? What was the one animal that like made it, made it happen for you?
Basically, when I was a kid, I was at the San Diego Zoo, and this is probably the mid '80s. They had a huge retic there, and no internet back then. So after that, library with the books. Most of the old school books are black and white, like the Dip Mars book and this and that, where they had pictures of them. But then all the mom and pop shops that had them. Got my first retic, I think, in '90. 891 for like I think $40 imports that like, a pair of them, and literally within 6 weeks one didn't eat, brought it back and got a refund, but the one ended up keeping probably I think kept her about 15 years before I had moved the collection out. But back then it was basically wild caught, farmed, and that was it. Early in the '90s, and I think the tigers and albinos were like early '90s, mid '90s. But me working at McDonald's $4 an hour, yeah, there's other than buying just whatever's coming in from at the pet shop. It was never anything like morph wise. I've always like when I got back into it in 2012 after the military and whatnot. It was crazy because going from 2000, 2004 and before, it was all just normal, just like import, just whatever. Then getting back into it in 2012, it was like holy crap. Started with all the mainlands, ended up with like I think 30 or 40 mainlands. Then started looking into the dwarf and super dwarf in probably 2014, 2015, and saw that, and saw my first snow, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing. Basically gravitated toward that, started studying back in the until I basically only have my one mainland girl left.
Well, and I know you're dating yourself a little bit by saying, the 80s and you got your first retic the same year I was born, but Eric is still in the top 1% when it comes to all males and fitness. So don't count him out just due to his age. No, that's awesome, man. And it's been really cool to see your journey too, Eric. I mean, and I said this in one of my reels, but it's cool to see somebody really stick with it. And this was even before kind of the craze, I feel like. It's like you were working on the snow stuff. And I feel like the market, you were able to kind of time the market perfectly too and kind of ride that wave because you had put the work in on the front end. Um, You know what I
But a
mean?
lot of
So
it too is like even before, like when I first got my first pair of the devil hats from Ben, like I sold the male right after that first season, which I regret. And back then, I sold them for $1,200. And this was
it's
probably
crazy.
2016. I sold them because back then everyone was like, "Oh, snow is garbage. It's just an albino that looks faded, blah blah blah." But I think a lot of it is just the timing has to be right, and just once, like, yeah, you might have sold it for less in the beginning, but like on the back end, it'll make up. You'll make it up. Even with, especially now with the localities where a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're not worth a lot now," but I guarantee you down the road they will be.
Right. Right. No, I mean, and there's the potential is just endless, and I think we're seeing kind of a shift, and that's going to be the next question is just some of the different market trends and some of the shifts that we're seeing. But um, Dylan, let's hear from you. What retic kind of got you into retics?
So I got super interested in them when I was like 12 or 13. I saw like Brian Barczyk's videos where he had that like big tiger. I was like, that is the most beautiful snake I've ever seen, but I couldn't, I was 12. I couldn't have a 13-foot snake in my house. Um, so then in this last year or so, getting back into like I found Reach Out Reptiles videos and was like, whoa, these things come in smaller sizes, and I was sold right away, and then got the first. I just bought like a wild type for them as a pet, and then once I got that animal, I was like, oh my god, that I want to dedicate a significant portion of my time and resources into this because this is the coolest snake I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love that, and you're very active on social media too, and that's one of the other things I really want to talk about. Just seeing kind of what the influence of social media has had on super dwarfs and the market and some of the different things that we're kind of seeing with this next wave and this next generation of keepers and breeders. It's really, really cool to see. Um, so thanks, Dylan. Let's go to you, Chris.
So similar to most people around here, I started out finding them in an encyclopedia, just see them in books and admired their natural beauty that way. And then I'm gonna say mid '90s, late '90s, when Steve Irwin and Austin Stevens were on TV. One of those two showed, I think, a Bali yellowhead it was, or maybe a Malaysian, not
Mm,
sure. Just that incredibly bright silver-sided snake with beautiful yellows, and absolutely fell in love with the pattern, but just couldn't work with a mainland myself because no experience with something like that. And then probably about 2018, 19, started hearing the murmurs, whispers of smaller sized ones. And then in 2020, started diving more into research and found a couple of large name breeders, we'll say, that I got a couple of animals from, and just it blew up from there. And now I have 20 different retics in my house of different
wow.
localities.
I love that. I love that. So yeah, you grew relatively quickly too. So um, this next section, I really want to talk about just from the time that you started, from the time you got into retics, what are some of the overall changes that you've seen in the industry and the market? And then even more recently, let's say in the last couple of years, because I think there has been kind of a bigger shift in the last couple of years too. And just based on your experience in keeping or just, connecting with people in the space, some of those different changes. But let's start with you, Nathan, because I know um once again, you bought a lot of these mainland animals, and obviously, I know you just picked up like a ternate and stuff. But what are some of the things that, from the time you bought your first retic, like most recently, to your last pickup, what's changed in terms of some of the directions or some of the perspectives that you have?
Okay. So initially, I- so it's a hobby, but it's also a business, and reason it's like frowned upon to say it's a business. And
Only passions allowed.
whenever I looked at those, yeah, yeah, it's just a hobby, but then you want to sell it for a certain amount. Um, but with having the mainlands, I wanted to appeal to different markets. That was also part of my strategy on why I purchased, say, an ocelot. One, I did have to like all of them, which I did. And then I purchased, that purple OGS Sunfire. So I was trying to hit all the different corners. And realistically, that helps build my brand um, from the support from those additional breeders that I have purchased them from. Then looking more into the dwarves and super dwarfs, that opens up to a whole new clientele. And I wanted to see what could be done with them. I got a little more interested by seeing, you know, the Tornades, the Kiowatis. I specifically purchased the Kiowati because no one had them.
Mm.
There was one available, so I thought, well, I want to get it. And so that's what appeals to me is the rarity of what it is. I like the Kalatoas, but then that was at the time where I was at the TK line. I don't know. There was a bunch of drama going around the Kalatoas, so I thought I'm going to steer clear of that for at that point. And went that route, and I had a successful clutch, which was terrific. And so that's still more recently purchased that Turnate, and I want to see how to make it the best with the Aztecs before I go and add it to a bunch of other things.
Yeah, so just like playing around and refining the Aztec stuff. I mean, I know once again you made a big splash by picking up a lot of these kind of higher end morphs and stuff like that. And so it seems like now you're kind of trying to dial in like, okay, what is your focus going to be, for your brand? And then how do you maximize your own look, right? Because you did the Kayawati Aztecs, now you're focused on the Ternate Aztecs. And I'm assuming that we're going to be able to kind of see the difference in the locality influence with that. So I think that's great. And you're definitely doing your own thing, your own way. And that's why, with our group and with this podcast, it's like this is an open forum. We want people to come and be able to express themselves, the good, bad, and the ugly when it comes to, keeping, breeding, relationships, like whatever. Like and so that is exciting. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that, Nathan. And let's go to Eric. So Eric, I know you've been in for a long time. You were, your main mission was snows forever. Now you're into some recessive stuff. And what has changed with some of the direction or some of the things that you're looking at for yourself and also for the market?
I think for the market, the biggest thing is before the whole SD rush, like pre-COVID, it was basically the standard was this percentages. Like regardless of how the animal looked, everyone was just trying to make the higher percents. Even if the animals weren't the best looking, just to say I have 75% this or that. And I think a big push from that now currently is that not people aren't still going for the numbers, which they are, but to a lesser degree where they want to start implementing more locality influence to it, which overall, because we all know the SD, basically the color palette, Kalatoa, Madu, Krumpa is limited to brown, gray, silver, if that. So with Halmas, Turnates, Philippines, or anything else, it's gonna the contrast, the side banding, just everything is gonna be improved. You might sacrifice some size, but I think most people at this point are willing to sacrifice the size to get aesthetically, pleasing looking animal. If the animal's exponentially better looking but bigger, more than likely they'll go for that than just a small animal and it's smaller, but yeah, it's brown or less contrast, less color to it. Me personally, same thing. Like picked up a pair of Halmas from Rodney. Then I did the breeding loan with Andrew on the Ternate Het Rainbows and the Philippine and stuff like that. And basically, my goal is to just kind of start incorporating the other localities into even my snow stuff where I have a big enough base on my, my snow stuff where I don't care about the percentages because I can bump that easily. But even, run a visual snow to a home, a Ternate, then go back to a high percent double hets or a visual, then that's a no brainer. So I think
Yeah.
it's right now, I think a lot of people are seeing the value of the different localities because, for the longest time it was '07. Only those seven and nothing existed. Now people are realizing, oh shit, there's more. So and it's not even that there's more, like those other ones that aren't part of the seven, have so much more value to it when you look at it long term in terms of what you can and can't do with them. The 7 we know about, like more or less, are all very, very similar, minus, Flair or Tom Belongans that have some color, but they're all very limited in what they do. All the other localities, I think down the road, we're going to see, you know, even just imagining like albino homa or ternate, like that contrast and color is going to be just absolutely insane. And it's like Rodney's talked about it, where if you can make a nice looking albino that's reasonable, 500, $700 as a bread and butter, like, pet that, yeah, you could breed it, or just someone that just wants a pet. 'Cause honestly, you don't need to breed. I know a lot of people get into the market thinking, oh, I want to breed. How many people, like for you, Spencer, like when you came in, what, 5, 6 years ago, how many of those people
Mhm.
are selling them? If you're
I'd say
doing,
I'd say 95% are gone.
yeah, I mean, it's one of
Mhm.
those things where if you're
Yeah.
doing it as a passion project and like you'll stay the course, whether you make money, lose your ass, you're still going to stay the course. But people that get into it because of the money, 100%, they probably won't even last 5 years. I mean, like the people coming in now, probably in 5 years, most of those people will be gone. Same thing. It just, you know, it'll everything's in a cycle, and it'll weed itself out in terms of the people that are like legitimately like passionate and they're going to see it through regardless of what happens. And the people that want to do it for money, they might make money a season or two, but after that, they're done because they're always going to be chasing the new morph. I think if we all stay our course and, like Rodney's talked about, his localities he's done for probably a decade or more. Same thing with me with the snows. Like, what, 2015, no one was talking about snows. No one even cared about the SD snow stuff, where it's just you find your niche and you just work it, and you just, it's easy to get sidetracked, because everyone's, you know, they get those babies and you see them post. Then about 3 or 4 months later, you never see that picture of that baby. And then all of a sudden the guy posts hey, my new pickup. And it's just a cycle. So it's just one of those things where you got to be very selective and stay the course and not get sidetracked with all the extra stuff.
Can we make a new map with more islands?
Yeah.
Spelled correctly.
Yes, spell.
Can we make a
Technical
new map?
motion.
No, I mean, I love that. And Eric, one thing I've been thinking about, and I think I mentioned this to Rodney one time. You've worked, because you're working towards, what is it, 7 or 8 gene high percent male or high percent animal? How many genes have you stacked into?
The most right now, I have 6 gene aneries that are 68.75% calico and madu.
Jeez.
See, that's insane. So like, Eric has crushed the percentage game, especially kind of in his lane. And so the way that I visualize it, like let's say you take one of those animals, right? It's like, what does that look like when you give it a fresh paint job in Ternate, right? Or Halmahera or whatever. It's like I would love to see those combos because like we've seen pretty like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 gene Rodney combos with some of that stuff you've done, and it
Yeah,
just it's
I
just
only have
wacky.
one. I only have one 3 gene. I have a Motley
It's just
Tiger
wacky.
Son.
Yeah, they're just wacky looking. Like you don't see anything else like it out there. So that's what I'm saying is there's like people think that, oh, the market's bogged down or this that. It's like, no, like I'm actually more excited than I've ever been just because with some of this fresh like perspective and locality stuff, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah,
And
you
so
just got to, stay the course. The way I looked at the snow in the beginning, like I said, 2015 or so is when I got into it. Like, I basically, before I got the pair from Ben. Then from that point on, I was like brainstorming, okay, how do I basically corner this market? I could do that normal, like, oh, double head to double head or snow to whatever. But my mentality has always been, I need a completely separate group of Anri, no albino in it. That way down the road, like my thinking was always been like, I want all the different types of snow, just for shits and giggles. So I've always worked toward making crazy high percent Anri stuff. So down the road, if I want mocha, Indo caramel, I just throw that in there and be like, oh, look, double heads. Like the clutch I just made this past year, those are 84.375% SC, and I think that girl has 5 genes, 4 or 5 genes, whatever. Again, like I have a male that has, I think, 4 genes. He has 1 gene left, but less than her. But it's always been, you tackle that project where with the recessives, if you're doing double recessive, you can do it in a linear fashion, which it'll get you there. It'll take forever. and you're gonna have a ton of surplus animals. But if you kind of branch out, but if you do, then you start having 20, 30, 40 some animals, which is not realistic for most people. I'm just stupid and a sadist, so I just continue my route and have 70, 80, 90 or some retics. But you just got to,
Right.
figure out the best way to do it and realize that if you don't branch out, eventually you're going to bottleneck, you're going to breed, relatives back together, which you don't want. So you got to kind of, me keeping the anery separate, I could always just kind of start banging out these super high percents and just hold them back and not worry about it, then plug it into your snows again. So
Right.
the biggest thing is people kind of think about breeding in a very linear fashion, which kind of initially it's not going to affect them, but down the road they're going to realize, oh crap, I should have done this or added more on the front end, so the back end you're not so backed up.
Right. No, I love that. I love that. Well, Dylan, let's go to you because I know you're kind of newer to the space, and so give us kind of that newer perspective on being in the market, looking to purchase animals. You're seeing all these different breeders. What's attracting you to certain breeders? Is it their content? Is it the animals? Is it, from your perspective, just kind of coming in fresh, like what has your experience been?
For me, it's a lot about like what you guys have been saying about localities and aesthetic value of the snakes, and honesty is a big one. I've been pretty open on the Facebook groups about how I got an animal that was misrepresented to me. That was the
Hmm.
first snake that I got, and so like finding people who are not telling me that the snake is going to be 7 feet long in adulthood, and it's a low percentage cross. That's been a huge thing for me. And just like look, the stuff I'm trying to pick up is mostly locality stuff at this point, as kind of a basis to work in the morphs later on.
Hmm.
Um, and also just from like the business standpoint of things, it seems to me that localities are holding their value a lot better and easier to sell than like some random morph cross. Like there's a million tigers out there, there's a million purples out there. So that's kind of been my main focus and what I'm looking for.
I love that. I love that perspective because I still think that stands true to this day, where if you are looking at this kind of long term, especially with some of your females and some of those different things, picking up locality females, I don't think you can go wrong. Like, I think that is like a sure bet because there's so many things you can do. Um, that's one thing that like I forced myself to do when I started because originally I wanted to buy all the pretty stuff, you know.
Who doesn't?
Which there's no problem with that either, but I'm just saying, especially because I wanted to focus specifically on, Coyotes. I picked up a pair of Coyotes and like some of those different things. Having that base for me, I was like, okay, I want to work some of these localities into my stuff. So, um, yeah, transparency, integrity, and honesty as well when it comes to working with breeders. And I know a lot of people are wanting to see more, setups, husbandry, best practices, all those different things. It's going to be a huge thing to if you're going to be a breeder, it's going to be a huge thing down the road. Um, to be successful, in my opinion. So, thanks for sharing, Chris. Let's go to you. What's changed since you've gotten in? Has anything changed? I know you have 20 animals now. Well, what's kind of the direction or some of the things you've seen in the market or other people doing? Has any of that influenced you?
So definitely people in the market have changed for me on like who to trust, who to follow. I've learned don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's better to have six, seven different people so you can, for lack of a better term, start cross-referencing things. Like Eric, I've talked to you in the past. I've talked to you a few times, Rodney. You get ideas from the different breeders, and you can almost weed through the BS of the ones that are just trying to make a buck. So on that sense, that's what I've
Mm.
seen shifting. I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of that, what you were asking me.
No, well, so you've got 20 animals now. What's kind of your direction? Because I think
So
you're
I'm gonna work
100% right.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on like some medium-sized localities. Like I like the Jampea stuff. I like the Halmahara stuff. So I'm gonna work with like a Indo Jampea project and hopefully get the anery in there. I want to cross that into the Halmahara network of things, and I also have anthrax that I want to work into my Jampea combos as well. So I mean, there's untapped in there, and there's obviously stuff that's done, and I figure it's just something in a little niche segment similar to what others have done where it's not just the standard run of the mill wash rinse repeat breedings. It's a slightly different twist with a different locality influence or different color spectrums possibly.
Yeah, well, and I think once again, I think with a lot of the people that are kind of getting into this, they're much more open to some of those other ideas and some of those different things. Because like Eric mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, back in 2019, 2018, 2020, even, everyone was kind of living in this super dwarf percentage box, right? Where it was just everybody was beating their head against that door where you're like, I just want to make high, high, high percent. And no one was really thinking about the end product. So it is really cool to kind of see some of that. And Rodney, I know you talk to a lot of people that are looking for, locality stuff, if it's Ternate, Halmahara. What are some of the overall conversations? Have any of those conversations changed in the last couple of years when people have reached out to you wanting to purchase that, or how have those been going?
Yeah, I mean to watch the evolution of this from like the wild caught normals in the 90s and then later into the 90s into the morphs and then the super dwarf stuff kind of hit the scene and then there was some legal issues USARC and stuff kind of died off and reach out reptiles kind of came out of nowhere um and kind of brought you got to give Garrett his credit where it's due and he did really shine a spotlight on at least 7 localities and but I mean and now we're into this new era of retics and that's kind of why we started the whole next gen retics group where there's kind of been this blend of okay, we understand we need the wild caughts, we understand we need the morse, we understand we need the small genetics, and we also need these other secondary traits that we're seeing in some more medium sized animals, and that's probably the biggest thing I've noticed in conversations in the last 2 years, especially. Maybe Eric can vouch for that. I'd say in the last year or two where people are really having that conversation with me and with themselves and with others about okay, we need to blend all of this, because I mean I still think there's going to be a demand for Balis and Malaysians and Sumatrans, and that's they're not even on the table yet for people talking about, but like you're going to see that. I guarantee it because people that want higher silver, well, they're going to need a Sumatran or a Malaysian, so people are really I think we've gotten away from the concept of you can get a low percentage superdorf and it's only like Dylan said, it's only going to stay 7 feet. Like that's not really a story you can tell too many people anymore. Very few people are gonna bite on that story. And so now that that's gone away and it's more about trying to okay, let's just make them manageable size. Let's not pretend they only get as big as corn snakes. Let's just get something manageable and it looks good. And I think that's a huge step forward for the retic industry. And I'm actually, even with how shitty the economy is, I'm really hopeful just because of the mindset shift that I've seen, especially in the last 5 years. But in the last 2 years, um, I mean, I sold out of Ternates. I've never ever sold out of Ternates before. I don't have any. I've always had them for sale because they were such a niche locality, and I mean, I could have sold 20 or 30 more in the last 6 months if I'd have had them, and I just don't have them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I kind of want to do some custom questions here on this next round. So, Nathan, you just had your first clutch. How many healthy babies from that? 40, 42, 40?
Right. Um, Healthy babies 34.
34 healthy babies.
There was 42, 41, and then a dud.
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
throughout
slug.
incubation, yeah, and then I had two of them that had it wrapped around the neck, so they didn't make it whenever they came out or cut the egg.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
So if you could go back in time before that first clutch? I mean, is there anything you would have done differently, or is there anything that maybe it's not before the clutch, but maybe as you were kind of building this thing out, is there anything that you would have done differently if you could reverse a mistake or something that you look back on?
it was all luck, zero skill. Um, I had no idea what I was doing. I reached out to 20 different people and got 20 different answers,
I love it.
and then I remember I asked one question, or I sent photos, and I said, "Man, my snake is on this big log, and it looks." And the guy said, my friend, he said, "What? No one has that cool shit, so we don't know what it would look like on a log. It's always on a flat surface, Because I was like, is something wrong with it?" So, and then the time frames didn't work out from the time that the pre-lay shed to the post-lay shed. It was just it was a weird experience for the first time, and I remember going to work and always check on them, and then I have cameras in all their enclosures, and I went to Taco Bell and I pulled up my phone to look, and there she was laying eggs. So the Taco Bell lady got to hear all about it while I was waiting for my for my food.
You have what, like a
It
wise
was
camera setup or something?
no, I have I was talking to Shane. He uses the Ring cameras.
Oh, nice.
No, Ring, the Blink cameras. I buy the ones for the outside because I have that waterfall, that rain system in all the enclosures. So for the high humidity, they're awesome. They're cheap, only like I don't know, 40, $50. So it's pretty neat seeing that. But no, honestly, I don't think there's anything that I would change. I do think there's going to be some better, or not better, more unique options to plug the Aztec to. And that's why I'm working with the turn eights, and I may have a couple other localities that we'll see what will happen. Uh, but I will tell you this: 34 babies, they gotta eat, you gotta water them, you gotta clean them, you gotta take pictures of them. It's just the whole cycle, and so that has really made me rethink. I'm very particular on what snakes I allow into my collection due to I'm not going to allow myself to have too many. This is not strictly a hobby for me. I have done pretty well with selling the babies for the Aztecs, uh, but I am still so negative, when it comes down to it. Um, I mean, the price that it costs just for one enclosure for me to build is extremely high. So I don't do it for the money, but I do want to return and respect everyone else's investment into the projects. Um, but I am going to be a little more particular, or maybe hold back on maybe a couple breedings, and I'm not in a race with anyone. I like the Aztecs, and that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. I love that. That's great perspective. And kind of piggybacking on that, Eric, I think it's important for a lot of keepers or people that are potential customers getting into it understand kind of what it takes to breed, and all that kind of goes into it. And I'm just prepping for my first season, and it's like, I feel like my time has doubled in terms of thinking about everything. But what's maybe something that you want to peel the curtain back on for potential customers or keepers or other people that might not understand kind of the depths of what it takes to breed?
I think the biggest thing people don't understand or probably can't fathom yet is like Nathan said, with taking care of the babies. The adults are easy. We're all on. We have their routines. We know what they like and their schedules is easy. And if you're doing one clutch, even with Nathan's like 34 animals, it's still going from no babies to 34. All of a sudden, you're like, holy poop, changing those tubs once or twice or three times a week because they pull the paper towels into it. And then like we all know the market is kind of hit or miss sometimes with sales, and people thinking, oh, I'm gonna move the whole clutch out like in a month or two. That's completely unrealistic unless you're giving stuff away. But if you're doing that, then why breed? So I think that the whole kind of the strategy behind having the clutches and realizing, hey, I might need to sit on these babies for a year, maybe longer. Do I have the space, the time? The adults are easy. They're on their routines, like off season. Like the girls don't, males and females, you're not feeding them like all the time, so no big deal. Cleaning's easy. But with the babies, it's a constant. And like Nathan said, you're taking a million photos because those animals are they're not stopping. So you're taking 40 pictures for one good picture that you can post. Then you'll have people like, oh, I want to see the ventral scales. I want to see the sides. And it's a never ending cycle and that's with one clutch. And you get a lot of newer people like, oh, I want 3 or 4 clutches my first year. Good luck with that because that's a nightmare. Like if you're doing this full time, then yeah, but most people have the normal jobs, family commitments, whatever. It's like to go from not understanding that to like, oh, I'm gonna bang out 50 to 100 babies and be like, oh, I should be fine with that when I've never experienced it, or even sourcing feeders. Like, you know, if we're lucky, the babies eat frozen thawed from the get go, no issues, you're fine. But then you'll have those animals that will go weeks and weeks and not eat. Then you've tried mice, rat pinkies. Now you're trying day-old chicks and this and that. For someone that's done it, you're like, I'm sure Rodney's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. It'll eat when it eats, and we're good. But for a brand
Yeah,
new, breeder, that's like, oh my
they're
god, this thing
freaking
happened.
out.
Yeah. Hey, what do I do? What do I do? Just wait it out. But it's been a month. Yeah, who cares? Just wait it out. As long as they have fresh water, they're good. They're alert. They have good body tone. But like, the newer breeder wouldn't know that, and they're just gonna be like, oh my god, this or that. Where everything's just super traumatic for them. And like I said, with one clutch is fine. But I'm sure Nathan, if he had the ability to breed a bunch of other ones at the same time, he'd be like, no, I'll do this one, get my feet wet, figure things out, logistics, tubs, blah, 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 get in a rhythm. Then maybe next year, 2, maybe 3 clutches. But I think people, we've always talked about it where, you buy them as babies, you raise them up, and when they're ready, they're ready. You're not trying to buy adults and be like, oh, I want to get out the gate with 3 or 4 or 5 clutches in my first year. First off, no one knows you, so. And I always tell people the biggest thing is branding.
Mhm.
They're like, well, I'm not breeding for a couple years. Who cares? Go in the groups, show your off your snake, let everyone know who you are, what you have, and basically you're showing people, okay, look, I'm in it for the long term. I've had the babies, I'm raising up the next couple years instead of some guy that comes in out of nowhere and has all these high end animals to sell. Like, why would they buy from you when they have people that are established in the community where,
Mhm.
oh, so I've seen them every day, for years on end, and you might have the exact same combo, but if people don't know you, they're not gonna buy from you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You have to, and you do a pretty good job, Eric. You'll bang out a bunch of videos of your stuff outside and or on the play set or whatever you've built
Yeah.
outside for them and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you do a really good job just being consistent with that, and I think that's just so important. So thanks for sharing, Dylan. Let's go to you. I want to change it up just a little bit. So let's take money off the table. You have an unlimited budget. I know you're just getting into this, but dream pairing if money and genetics are not an issue. What do you build and what are you putting together?
Korean pairing. I mean, there's a ton. Just something that's been on my mind recently is actually kind of an idea that Rodney posted in a video. Titanium is one of my favorite morphs.
Mm.
And at the end of one of Rodney's videos, he was like, take blue hypo to the titanium. And that has been stuck in my head ever since. So I would definitely go for the blue hypo to titanium, take that into SD. That's kind of, I'm semi planning on doing that. I haven't fully committed to it. And obviously it'll be 4 or 5 years before I even pair anything. So yeah, but that's definitely it. I love the Aztec stuff. I'd love to work Aztec into some stuff. I mean, honestly, just Aztec on its own is such a beautiful morph. I don't think it needs much else.
Mhm.
So just like maybe working some localities into the Aztec stuff. Like I'm very excited to see this turn 8 Aztec clutch that Nathan has on the horizon. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm going to plug Chris McVicker. He might have something for you that's a little bit further along on the titanium side. So that's a guy that I would reach out if I was
We've
you.
spoken. He
Yeah.
was one of the first guys I reached out to once I started getting into it. My problem with the titaniums is, um, I love them, but I don't really want like a $2,000 to $5,000 snake that nobody else wants because people don't tend to love them very much.
But as long as you make titaniums that look good, they'll sell. The reason everyone doesn't want titaniums is because, and Eric can tell you, a long time ago, when Jay came out with titaniums, what happened was he bred them into like tigers and some stuff that just made them worse. So he was trying to push this new morph, but every time he came out with the new combo, it was worse than the last one. So you had titaniums that look good, then you had titanium tigers that were like, eh. Then he had like titanium, like tiger white phases, and then titanium super tiger white phases, and then he'd put like platinum and sunfire. It just that's what like that the titanium is where like me talking shit on like the big yellow banana. Like that's where that all started. Like it's me talking shit on what Jay was doing with titanium. But no one's ever like tried to make good looking titaniums. And as soon as you start making good looking stuff with them, they'll be neat. Like even like Eric, what do you think like a genetic stripe titanium would look like? I mean, you're talking a lot of silver in that
That's 20
situation.
silver on sides.
Yeah.
Super clean uniform stripes.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
mean,
I've actually
there's a
thought
lot
about.
of stuff you could do with them.
Yeah, that's what I've thought about because Chris McVicker's titaniums, they have these crazy stripes all the way down the side. And that was an idea he kind of gave me in the first conversation that we had, which like, hey, if you want to buy this, take genetic stripe to it, man. And like the genetic stripe titanium blue hypo, I think that would be an unbelievable animal. And hey, maybe you'll see me do it in 12, 15 years.
Well, I think I'm trying to think who's working genetic stripe in this SD. I know Jesse Serrano is,
My best friend
and
Garrett's doing it.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, once again, there's some of these projects that I thought 2 years ago we would have, and they just haven't come to fruition. And and that's the other thing. Thinking about just my own stuff, Nathan, I have a sibling to that female Coyote, and so once she laid 42 eggs, I'm like, holy crap, I'm gonna have to like rethink this potential pairing I'm doing. I don't know if I want to take a hypo to her, because then I'll have 40 something head hypos potentially, if everything goes well. So I switch some things up, or I'm switching some things up, I should say, um, just to kind of appease the market a little bit. And it's been really cool because I have had a lot of people reaching out. There is a big demand right now for high percent pet quality stuff, right? Superdorf. There is, because I mean, we talked a little bit about it last podcast, but when you look at a morph market, there's nothing really above 60%. I mean, almost anything, and so you start building up some morph combos that are past that. Eric's got some high percent stuff too, but anyway, it's just kind of interesting. Chris, let's go to you. I think if there's one thing, I know you've got 20 animals now, and it sounds like you're working Indo and Jamp and Halmahara, which I think is sick, because I once again I think there's a lot of these projects that people are just simply not doing, and they're going to look great. People don't have the patience for them. So talk a little bit about your mindset of putting those pieces together, and what kind of made you want to focus on those.
So I've always kind of liked the Jam locality, and I don't know if it was a nostalgia thing because the Jampea locality was my first retic. It had 68.75% in it, that it just appeased me. And just kind of looking at the different morphs, and then I seen the Indo stuff, and I was kind of leaning Mochino till I seen Indo and Orange Glow. So I kind of just started focusing towards that and found the Anery had Indo Orange Glow, Indo or purple stuff. Started buying that, and then the Halmaharas were just a unique look. Then and from picking up on Rodney's podcast and information is where I started to get the Halmahara crosses into that because of the crazy blacks into that Indo. In my mind, it was just going to create something unique, something that's just going to pop, something that stands out from just a normal Indo. And then to throw the anery in there, it was just another mix because anery into a Halma, there's going to be no question on whether it is or it isn't. If it proves out, you're going to tell because everybody knows that the Halmas are just so dark and brown that if it's anery, it's just going to create a
Mhm.
unique look there. And it's something that in my mind I think is going to be just off the charts. You know, I don't want to say never been seen before, but definitely not a common thing that we're going to see in the area right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really unique and similar to Dylan. I mean, once again, it's like there's people are just simply not doing some of this stuff. I mean, in Rodney's video, there was 10, 20 projects he rattled off where I was shocked where when I talked to him, I was like, there's really no one working a lot of these different things. And he said, not that I know of, you know? And so when people look at it and they're like, oh, the space is so competitive and everything like that, it's like, actually the space is pretty wide open for the taking, especially now with, like I said, there's kind of this new generation, this new wave of keepers and breeders. The other thing I've been seeing too, and I don't know what your guys' experience has been with other breeders in other niches in the reptile space, but there's a lot of breeders in other niches coming into super dwarfs. And that's been really cool. I've had a lot of really cool conversations over the last week with some individuals that are into boas or ball pythons, whatever, and they see the value. They see why people are so interested in super dwarfs. And so that's been really, really cool to see. And hopefully we can continue to convert some of those breeders that are already breeding other species into the super dwarf game, right? So well, let's go around one more time. Let's go around one more time, and then we'll wrap things up. But I want everybody to plug your guys' stuff. Any breeding projects in the next 12 months that you guys want to talk about. You know, the other thing that I always plug as well is if there's anybody watching this that's looking to purchase an animal, a pet, or investment animal, whatever you want to call it, wait 3 to 6 months. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out in the next 6 months. But let's start with you, Nathan. Go ahead, plug away and talk about maybe some of your plans, even if it's the Aztec stuff or whatever.
Yeah, so I don't know which one I'm more excited about. And it really just depends on how the females are, if they go this year or next. But um, my ocelot, um, if she goes, I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens because to my knowledge, it hasn't been done yet before, so we don't know what it's going to look like. Some people have some ideas, but I have that, the Ternate Aztec, hopefully, nothing's been set in stone, obviously, or confirmed. And then my female Aztec, I think that she'll go this year. But then again, I go into that predicament. I don't want too many, so I'm really trying to think about what I want to let proceed. Um, you know, and it is tough. It's like, oh man, I could do that maybe now, and then now if I wait, now I'm behind the game. But then I really think about it, is I don't care. I just want to make stuff that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard to get to that point. Um, because back to my earlier statement, it still is a business. A hobby can still be a business. You want to be profitable, and but then again, I don't want to flood the market, with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will say that what has helped me the most is that website. The website has been really, really helpful. Rodney was talking about it, and me, we were going back and forth about if you're gonna, build one for me, and then I started messing with it. Then I ended up just doing it, uh, and I don't recommend that. It's no fun if you've never done that before. But I did it. I did the whole damn thing. Um, but that has been really neat. I get a lot of the purchases or sales have come from the website. So, and, that's nice too. I spent a lot of time, money, resources into building my brand, the logo, marketing, all those things. You have to do it all. And what comes down to just being honest. I had someone today reaching out to me, said, "Hey, yours is 50%." It was a normal, that I have available right now. He's like, "So it's going to stay small?" And I said, "No." I said, "My super dwarf's bigger than my dwarf, depending on how you classify it." And I said, minimum of 11 feet. I said, "So be prepared for anything else." And I never heard back. And that's okay. I don't care. I don't want to sell it to someone off of a lie. And then in 2 years, they can't, take care of it properly. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I have some. What I'm most excited about is moving and building. Like, I thought I built big enclosures for them, and they're not big enough. And that's even with them being. They basically have a two-story because I have those ginormous logs in there, so they'll bask on top and then they can go down below. Uh, but I'm most excited about building their bigger custom enclosures. Like I just sit down there and watch. I know a lot of people like get their snakes out all the time and play with them, and I get mine out. I have no problem with that. But I just like sitting there and just watching them, because the big ones that they do climb, they do move. I know that's a lot of people say, "Oh, well, they don't do anything, they don't climb." Well, that's horseshit because they climb all the time. You know, if you have the environment for them. So it's neat seeing a big old snake up there, pretty high up. But yep,
Yeah,
that's it.
that's epic. I mean, what you're doing is like on the extreme epic side, you know what I mean? And that's really cool to see. And everybody has their different flavor and twist to their setups and their husbandry. I So many of those work well, and but what I will say is if you're looking to educate or have people over, like having something that you're proud of that you can show off is awesome. I mean, and I have a similar experience where people they want to just come look at the enclosures, you know what I mean? And so that's great. Eric, what are you looking forward to over the next 6 to 12 months?
My big ones that for this season will be making some 50% Kalatoa orange glow snow stuff and Mochino snow stuff. Then basically holding those back and down the road going for Indo Carmo Mocha snows. That hoping to get my hypo stuff started this season. I mean, most of it will be locality based. Like I plan on running the hypo to the Homa girl, to my pure pet Anri girl, and that pure Anri SD girl. I think with my hypos, I'm gonna run them eventually to one of the 16 Anri girls because I want to do Anri hypo stuff. But other than that, I don't think I'm gonna
Mm.
do. I thought about running the snow too, but I was like, I think the hypo would just be locality based stuff where I haven't really seen too many hypos that I like personally. Besides like the basics, like hypo tigers, I think look cool. Hypo
Mm.
platinums are cool, but I think more locality based stuff is going to be probably the route I take with that instead of just gene stacking it. Just because I think we lose a lot with the gene itself once you start kind of getting all those other genes on top of it. But that's basically my main the Mochino snows, orange glow snows, and hopefully starting the hypo project. And I think that's it. I might do another like high percent snow clutch potentially, but other than that, I think that's probably my main focus are those two, the new types of snows. If I get that, then I can phase out a lot of my other like het purple stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want me to reveal this, but you'll be probably moving out some of your like some of your stuff, some of your adult stuff, right? At some
I'll be
point.
moving a bunch of my breeders after this year just because I plan on cutting back big time just because I need like we all know how much time these animals take and new hobbies, more time commitments here and elsewhere. I want to get it manageable where I'm not doing it 7 days a week. So
So put that on your calendar, guys.
yeah,
If you
I'll
want some
be
nice adults,
basically
Eric's gonna have a fire sale. No, I'm just kidding.
more stuff. I'm just I'd rather just raise up babies, take my time when they breed whenever they breed, and just go from there from here on out. Just because I don't need to breed like crazy, and Nathan can attest to how much work babies take, and I don't like having full hatching racks that you're dealing with every single day. No, I'm good. I'd rather
Yeah.
be out, doing something else.
Well, and I agree on the hypo stuff. I've got a platy tiger hypo male, and for whatever reason, it's like Bob or other people, it's like they threw platy into all the hypo stuff, you know? And so I am very curious to, kind of get out of that, to be honest with you, and just see what locality does. I do want to see some tiger hypo stuff, make some of that, but um anyway, yeah, most of the hypo stuff has got platinum in it from what I've seen, So well, cool. Dylan, what are you looking forward to in the next 6 to 12 months? I don't know if you're looking at picking up more animals or just building up kind of your brand or what you're doing, but yeah, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so mostly I'm just going to be posting up, sharing, raising up the animals, spending time with the animals. I do plan on picking up a few things. My next few pickups, I want to pick up a pure SD pair of something. I'm thinking Kalatoas, and then I'd like to pick up a pure Halmahara pair. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, other than that, the only project I have that's like set in stone, I'm for sure gonna do it, is I have a Salea Toa that I want to take a Super Maluku to.
mm,
That'll
I'm
be neat.
Yeah,
Pretty
I'm
cool.
really
yeah,
curious what that'll do. I have no idea. I'm doing the thing that Rodney's always discouraging, which is like I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I think it'll be cool. So I'm gonna do it, and
that's
it'll be.
actually a good like mix up though. Like I feel like, you're gonna get kind of a mixed bag. So it makes sense, to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and
So
I'm 2 or 3 years out on that pairing, so it's not on the horizon anytime soon. But keep an eye out. Other than that, I'm looking to start a YouTube channel within the next 2 to 3 months. It's going to be really geared towards like new keepers and just what I've learned in this first year, because I have come a super long way just knowledge wise from, I messaged Eric when I first started thinking about doing this. And I was, I mean, I'm sure he was reading the message like, oh my God, Garrett got somebody else. Because I was just talking about breeding, low percentage het purple to another low percentage het purple. And he was like, dude, you're not going to sell those snakes. Um, and yeah, so I'm just kind of making videos to help people avoid being like me.
I love that. I love that. And you're a great supporter. I mean, you're super active in the community, and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being connected with you. So I'm rooting for you. Chris, let's go. Let's go to you. What are you excited about over the next year? What do you got cooking?
Hopefully moving out my clutch that I have right now in the rack. Um, but I'm hoping that my Phantom Girl goes, because then I compare her to one of my hogs that I have, to make some cows. Just it's relatively new, and that's really the only pairing that I have planned, and it's all based on how the sales aspects go. I don't want to, like Nathan was talking about, have to take care of multiple clutches at one time. One and a half clutch a guy can do. But you start doing three, four, just because I have two or three animals that could go doesn't mean I should. So my Phantom Girl is the
Mm.
the only one that I'm gonna really push for if it goes.
What is so are those is that Superdorf stuff or is that mainland stuff?
Yeah, so
What is
the
that? Do
the
you have?
the Phantom Girl I got is actually from you, Eric Lee. It's 68 and three quarter Kalatoa Madu, and the head orange ghost stripe that I have is a 50%. I'm gonna say it's a TK line animal, but it still puts out 59 and three eighths percent. Superdorf is just what I'll label them as. I'll
Nice.
keep the numbers there, but it's still a manageable size animal, but you know does have the potential
Mm.
to get large.
Right. No, that's awesome. I mean, I know there's a handful of people that, I mean, myself included, that are shooting for cow stuff in the next year or so. I'm gonna butcher the name. Rodney's gonna make fun of me. I can't say their name. Their name is Anaquatics.
I
on
think it's
Instagram.
Is it Anunnaki or what is it? What
Anunnaki. I
is that?
can
What it
never
is?
Yeah.
say the name.
Yeah.
I can never say the name, and I'm so sorry, guys, because I enjoy your content. But yeah, I think she just had a female that laid 50% GC cows, hopefully on the way with that. So that will be a pretty big move in the right direction for the overall project. I'm shooting for 68.75% cows, normal cows, super dwarf stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that want to make cows and make nice cows, and so I'm mostly probably excited for that pairing. You
And
know,
I don't think a cow retic. I don't think it'd be hard to overproduce those.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
white snakes, yellow snakes, white and yellow snakes, albinos, super phantoms, cows. I mean, I don't think you can make enough super dwarf versions of that. You know what I mean? Like, I think they'll always sell. You know, you take them to a show, like in 10 years, there's 300 available. You take them to a show and you're able to sell them for $500. I mean, they're still going to sell. You know what I mean? Um, so anyway, that's just kind of how I see it. Rodney, any closing remarks? Anything that you're excited about or things that you're seeing?
Just the polygenic stuff. Like I'm probably most excited about, and they haven't even bred yet. A fractalist line ternate to a Mindanao.
Mm.
So that's probably what I'm really excited about seeing that. Because I think it'll be pretty unique. I do, which is crazy. If I hit on them, if I beat everyone to Super Dwarf Anthraxes, that's insane. I do have potential to make those this year.
You've been talking about those for like 5 years.
Yeah,
Like,
and I just find it was like I was like, fuck it, I'm doing it. If no one else, like, it's like no one else is doing it. Shane McMillan might hit on them this year. I don't know if Garrett will. I don't know who else is out there working on that. But
Martin
no,
had
I'm
him a
doing
few
that.
years ago.
I'm doing a bunch of just like, yeah. Didn't they die? Like, didn't somebody hatch some out and they like just died or something? Like something weird happened like a long time. I don't know
put
what the
them in the incubator or something. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what happened. But no, there's a bunch of just random stuff. Hopefully this year I prove out that like I said earlier, the yellowhead actually works like a gene. The Superdwarf Anthraxes would be great financially. But no, I'm more interested in the polygenics because I think I'm very close to pumping out new morphs. And I know people are going to hear this and be like, "Oh, you're an idiot." But I'm actually I think I mean I'm sitting on 4 potential new morphs right now, and then at one apocalypto, I the reason I was asking the other day online, like, is hypo blue hypo actually just a pattern mutation, not an actual hypo? It's because I got to put a video out on her. This one apocalypto I put out, she just looks like a high silver
He looks
ternate
hypo.
ternate version of a blue hypo. And I was like, so I do think, and as more people start selective breeding, I do think we are going to see morphs. I think we're going to see new morphs, and a lot of people are going to think that's crazy, but I've talked to biologists about it, and they're like, and when I learned that the tangerine whatever in leopard geckos was actually the result of polygenic breeding that actually pushed everything out. And it just got filled in and became a morph. So it is possible. It is possible to create a morph through selective breeding. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to try to make morphs. So that's kind of a high bar, to try to set to be like I'm going to try to make a new morph. But whatever. I'll at least make nice stuff. Worst case scenario, I'll at least make
Right.
really pretty normals. So
Well, I'm excited once again. I'm excited for this upcoming breeding season, and like I said, I think there's this mass adoption happening where people are really looking at things through a new lens when it comes to, I mean, really everything. When it comes to branding or putting out content, I'm seeing more keepers and new breeders putting out more content than ever before. It's like we need that because, you might think, oh, I'm putting content out to help me and my brand and it's me, me, me. It's like, no, it's actually helping everybody.
Yeah.
it's helping the entire community. And the other thing too about Dylan touched on it with being transparent, integrity, honesty. It's you want to build relationships with your clients and customers, and you want to have returning customers. So it's like, what's the point of selling somebody, ripping somebody off once when that person could have bought two more snakes from you in the next 10 years, right? It's like, what kind of relationship, what kind of reputation do you really want to have? And so, anyway, well, let's wrap this up. I want to just plug the Next Gen Retics Facebook page. We also just started our Instagram, so make sure you follow us there. We're going to be posting podcast clips on Instagram, also on Rodney's YouTube as well. But we appreciate everybody tuning in, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week.